Hi, it's Doctors Jennifer and Scott Waddell, and today we're going to talk about your mindset and trying to alleviate the fear that a lot of people in our society are having today. You know, Tony Robbins is often quoted as saying, when you're faced with a problem, to take a look at the problem realistically and see the problem for what it is, but don't see it for more than it is. The other thing I want to share with you is from a famous epidemiologist, scientist, a PhD, one of the founders and developers in the field of epigenetics. And he's written a book called The Biology of Belief, and it's Dr. Bruce Lipton. And in that book, he talks about how stress is such a major contributor to most of the common diseases that we face in modern day society. And we're going to share with you why that is in just a minute. But one of the things that he was sharing in this book was that stress and the hormones of stress are so powerful that they actually give people stress hormones after an organ transplant to decrease a person's rejection rate because they lower their immune system. And I want you to also think, we've all heard of the placebo effect. The placebo effect is that you have a positive feeling or belief about an outcome that influences that outcome of that particular procedure or test or whatever it is. But there's also something called the nocebo effect, which is the exact opposite, where you bring about more of a negative outcome because you have a negative thought or idea about that particular event.
That's right. And you just have to look around you and you can kind of see all the fear that people are feeling and the anxiety and the stress. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, you're not alone. We turn the TV on constantly. There's the constant stream of information that really feeds this feeling of being overwhelmed. And the truth is, as humans, we have when we feel that we're in a situation where it's out of our control, that generates this fear response. And if we don't know how to manage that fear, what happens? We go into sheer panic. And add that feeling that you have of sheer panic and couple that with turning on the news media every day, and you get this something new every day, mostly bad news, and all of that inconclusive information that just continues to disrupt our normal safe routines that have already been disrupted because most people are home working from home and trying to keep their lives together in some fashion. So it's completely normal and natural to have a fear response. Panic always arises in times of uncertainty. And these are uncertain times. Businesses are shutting down. Many people have lost so much money and have lost their jobs. And it's hard not to feel that stress and the anxiety and that fear just elevate and raise. And when a situation like this is happening, that fear contagion just spreads as quickly as the virus has been spreading.
So what I want you to know is that your brains are wired to worry. It's something that's hardwired into us over millions of years of evolution. And when we take a look at how animals, and we're an animal, how we react under stress or under fear, there's 4 F's that happen. There's freeze, there's flight, there's fight, or there's faint. And that's the body's response. It puts you into a stress response, a sympathetic overload that happens with the body. And when your body is in sympathetic overload, what it does is it shunts the blood away. It closes down the parasympathetics, which is for resting and digesting and reproduction and immune system. And what it does is it puts it all into the organs that have to either flee or fight. And what happens in a normal situation, that's a good thing. But when stress is chronic, or when fear is chronic, or when there's this constant uncertainty that goes on for days, weeks, months, then what happens is it shunts and lowers the body's normal immune response.
That's right. Our brains want to keep us safe, and they want to preserve that energy, our energy, in times of stress. So when we're little, we learn early on to avoid those things that cause pain and suffering, and we develop kind of a healthy fear of those things, and what creates us an ability in us to grow up and to be safe. But when you live in that fear state, it also creates behaviors and emotions that are really not a good place for us to be in. Things like mood swings and chaotic thinking and disorganization and binge eating and binge drinking. These are things that are kind of um, a natural fear response. And unfortunately, we can't just decide to override these fear triggers that have gone into millions of years of brain evolution. But really what we can do is we can learn how to become aware of them and become more mindful of them. And when we become aware and mindful that we're actually feeling these things, then we can develop strategies to change those feelings and those emotions. And so probably the number one thing that you can do in this time where you just feel this kind of bubble of fear and anxiety and stress is just ask yourself, what am I anxious about? What am I stressed about? And it's not helpful to just say everything. The key to this exercise is you choose a few words. Maybe I'm afraid of losing my job, or I'm afraid I don't know what to do. I have lost my job, or I don't know how to handle kids being home all the time and trying to work. Whatever it is, take a few minutes and write them down. And here's the reason why you do that. When you have this kind of vague emotional fear, stress, anxious state, you're operating from your emotional survival limbic reptilian brain, and the one that just wants you to survive. It doesn't care how you do it. But when you say, hey, I'm going to assign a word to this and write it down, immediately that feeling goes from that emotional state right up to your prefrontal cortex, where you can logically figure out a plan. So ask yourself, what is it that I'm anxious about? Write down a few words, and then look at that and say, okay, what can I do about that? What can I do about this one? What can I do about that one? If the answer is, oh, I can do this, then do it. If the answer is, I can't do anything about it, then stop obsessing about it, because that's going to do you nothing good. And it's going to put you in or keep you in a place you don't want to be. So that's the first thing. Identify it, write it down, and decide if you can do something, do it. If you can't, let it go. And if you can't do anything about it, then what I suggest is you do this following exercise that Dr. Scott's going to share with you.
You know, there's a number of things that we can do, and that Dr. Jennifer and I do on a daily basis to take us out of a sympathetic reaction, take our brains and our bodies out of the sympathetic stress response and put us more into balance or parasympathetic, which again is rest, digest, and heal. So we want to focus on the things that we can do that will take us into that. I'm going to share with you some breath work that you can do, but you can also do it with meditation, with writing gratitude, with sleeping more. Sex will do it. There's lots of different things that we can do that will take us out of that sympathetic and put us into parasympathetic. I want to give credit to John Assaraf, and he's got a book called Innercise. A lot of it has to do with the brain, and this one is how to recalibrate somebody that's in that constant stress reflex, that sympathetic mode. So it's what it is it's take 6 to calm the circuits. And I shared with you the other day in the video, but we're going to go into it more in depth. You take a deep breath in, a long, slow, deep breath in through your nose. You hold it, and then you slowly breathe out as if you're breathing through a straw. And what that does is it stimulates the vagus nerve, and it brings somebody out of that sympathetic overdrive into more balance or parasympathetic. Now, what you're going to do at the same time with each of those 6 breaths, on the way in, you're going to say, I breathe in calmness. So you're going to be saying that to yourself as you're breathing in through your nose. So as you breathe in.
Not physically saying the words, but
correct,
just to yourself.
because it'd be hard to say it as you're breathing in. So I breathe in calmness. So that's what you were saying to yourself as you breathe in through your nose. And then the first one that you're going to say, and we'll add this in the link down below, I breathe out fear. And then the next one, you're going to say, I breathe in calmness. And then as you're breathing out, what you're saying to yourself in your head, I breathe out panic. The next one, I breathe in calmness. And then you're going to say, I breathe out stress. The next one, I breathe in calmness. I breathe out anxiety. And then I breathe in calmness. I breathe out overwhelm. And then the last one, I breathe in calmness and I breathe out uncertainty. So you can do that anytime you're feeling anxious or fearful, or that you just want to become calm and centered in your daily process. I would say at a minimum, do that in the morning. I would do it multiple times throughout the day, and definitely I would do it in the evening. And then the other thing, like we mentioned before, is minimize that external input that's coming 24/7 from the news media that's looking to whip up fear and anxiety. We know where things are at, and we're not saying don't be aware, but don't feed your mind chronically with that stuff. It's just going to spike your fear. We love you guys. We're with you. If there's anything we can do to help, just let us know. Message us down below, and take care and look for our next video.
We're thinking about you.